I should be asleep right now. You ever sit up on a Tuesday? I'm not going up on a Tuesday, I'm sitting up on a Tuesday. I suffer from a condition known as too many thoughts in one head and barely enough cranial space for the thoughts I have. And before all of you jump to go, OMG, same, don't. Until you have irrevocably altered your life for the negative based on your overthinking. I'm not talking about embarrassing yourself at a party. I'm not talking about saying the right thing to that guy or that girl. I'm talking about when you alter your cosmic trajectory and that of people close to you based on things that you have read too deeply into. And then by the time you realize, oh snap, I was overthinking that situation, it's too late to change, and now you're a new person. Then you can join me, because as I sit here, a few days shy of the ending of 2021, I'm just overly reflective. Words are hard. I'm overly reflective because there have been so many cocoons this year that I thought would lead to my becoming some kind of butterfly, or at least an interesting moth, if I'm being honest. And none of them did that. They were all stages in development. They were all moments that needed to happen to usher in the next phase, but none of them led to any sort of terminus. Barely even a resting point, if I'm being completely honest. And it's really got me thinking. This is an old saying, but everyone wants to be the hero of their own story. And if you look at pretty much every story ever, the hero never once knows they're a hero. Maybe someone tells them at the end, but they don't know they're the hero. They're just trying to do the right thing. And sometimes what you think is the right thing is, even if it's well-intentioned, sometimes misguided. And then you wake up one day and realize, oh, I might be the villain of the piece. I can't get this train of thought out of my mind because you meet so many people day in and day out, whether it's in the kind of big picture sense or even the granular sense, whether you're at work or play or socially, wherever. People seem to think they're entitled to a specific ending. And this is my overthinking mind running away with the idea, but everyone thinks they're entitled to a certain ending. And it seems to me that thinking they are entitled to, or that they know what kind of ending they will have, takes them out of the moment. It takes them out of the process and makes them less aware. Because think about it. Think about, what's a good example here? Let's go with Jason Bourne. Because, sidebar here, I think that the Bourne identity is possibly the last great spy movie we ever had. Because it was at that inflection point where Bourne had just enough technology to still be kind of relatable if we watch it tonight in 2021. But he didn't have so much technology that he had to do less thinking. Because this is a big problem of mine with modern films, is that anytime we have an action film or a spy film, with very few exceptions, if the film is set in the present day, there is someone in a chair feeding them information. From Jack Bauer to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. They literally even made fun of the trope in Spider-Man No Way Home about the guy in the chair. There's always someone staring at a screen feeding the hero information. Text messaging and GPS and maps, all this stuff is way too accessible, and we have fewer great character moments of the character doing critical thinking. So let me bring that back around to my original point. When you are expecting your information to be correct, you stop thinking about it as much. You don't question things as much. You've decided, whether in a big way or a small way, that, I'm this kind of person, therefore XYZ should happen to me. Or if you think of someone else, they are this kind of person, therefore XYZ should happen to them. Whether it's a good outcome or a bad outcome, kind of immaterial. The point is, people walk around with this belief that their presuppositions will play out. And this kind of ties into ideas of faith, this kind of ties into ideas of religiosity. When you think you know something, you stop questioning the stuff around it. And I see people every day, I talk to people about a lot of topics that are pretty meaningful. Anything from, politics and how that plays into people's view of themselves and others, with faith and religion. Those are the two big obvious ones. And, the don't bring up a dinner party stuff. That's the stuff where people really have these attachments, but then you see it play out in relationships. And, I found myself single again about, I guess it was 15, 16 months ago. And I swore I would never do this, but I got on a few dating apps, and it has turned into less of a search for connection and more of a spectator sport, where I'm just interested to see how people talk about themselves and how they talk about what they're looking for in another human. And again, overthinker over here, I'm probably reading way too much into what people say. But I think it's really interesting how people talk about themselves and what they want from a potential partner. And there are a lot of commonalities. Everyone wants someone who will go on adventures with them or sit on the couch with them. And that's, none of this is wrong. None of this is good or bad. I'm not making any value judgments here. But when you look at this, everyone thinks they know what their relationship will look like. I made that mistake. My former spouse made that mistake. We made that mistake about each other. That's why I never talk ill of her, because it takes two to tango, and we both played a part. And when you think you know what the ending is going to be, you set yourself up for unmet expectations, because people aren't necessarily going to be who you think they are. Events won't necessarily play out how you think they will. We can make predictions. We can look at history for case studies, because this stuff repeats. Nothing is new. You can look at events that happened in the past, look at what's happening now, and make an educated guess. But the minute you make it a dogma, the minute you make it something that you personalize to the point where it's your own identity, you set yourself up for a reckoning if things don't go how you think, hope, predict, believe they will. And this has been on my mind because, sitting here alone at home on a Tuesday night, the only real light on me is from the TV. It's just blue because my Apple TV went on standby probably an hour and a half ago and I didn't even notice. And I'm just kind of in this little pocket universe where I have these ideas that are ringing in my head like a gong, and I'm trying to work them out. And I'm not under the influence of anything. I'm stone cold sober talking about this. But I look at people every day, and I just wonder if anyone else has picked up on this pattern. Because I had to make a decision for myself earlier this year that I would stop placing any expectations on anyone, except for them to follow through with what they say they will do. See, that's the caveat here. That's where this gets interesting, is that if you want to know where someone's head is, you have to talk to them about it. You should never assume. That's one of the 4 agreements. Don't make assumptions, because I think it is. I might be mixing up my self-help, but you should never make assumptions about another person. If you have questions, ask them, because the minute you make an assumption, that is when you have set that person up at some point to disappoint you. That's also why I try really hard to avoid leading statements, because nothing is more offensive to me personally. It's just a matter of personal taste. Nothing offends me more than when someone looks at me and says, "Don't you think?" Whether that's how they predicate or end a statement, nothing bothers me more than when someone says, "Don't you think?" Because chances are I might not. You have set us up for a defensive exchange. The minute you do that, this could either be simple agreement or a complex argument. You should never assume someone agrees or disagrees with you. The question should always be, what do you think? Not, don't you think? And these are just, I'm rambling here, but these are the ways in which people set themselves up every day for waterfalls of disappointments. Because sometimes when you have a really great day, if you think about it, that's just a day where your expectations were met. And your expectations might have been tiny. They might have been, hey, I'm going to get tacos for dinner. It might have been, hey, I'm going to take my dog for a walk. None of this is anything other than just simple life. But you were able to meet that expectation. Nothing got in your way. And honestly, in a perfect world, you would be entitled to that outcome. If you get up in the morning, you're saying, I'm going to have this kind of day, I'm going to have this kind of outcome. But that doesn't always happen. And we should never walk around thinking like, and this is just me covering my ass here, but you should never walk around expecting the worst. But I sometimes wonder if the Buddhists really have it right, and that the only way to truly be happy is to exist kind of on a little island, where you're calmly centered in the middle of events, but events don't really touch you. Now, you can go off the island, you can step into it, or you can allow people to cross those events and come to you. It's not to the omission of connections. But when you get caught up in that current of events, and then you get mad that the current went that way. So the current's the current. It's going to carry you. It's going to carry you. So, I hope that was as clear as mud for somebody. This is my life right now. I go out, I do my work, I come home, I do this thinking. And this episode is kind of a test in format. I have had some difficulty staying on schedule when I limit myself to the conversations or the interview style. And I've been threatening since this past spring to bring this podcast back and bring it in a different direction. And tonight just seemed kind of... I've wanted to try a monologue for a while and just kind of talk about what's on my mind, similar to what I do on Instagram. But I haven't really done it, so it's been on my mind. I put the camera back, I put the microphone back on the desk and just kind of had it staged, and tonight just seemed like a good night to sit down and chat. So if you have made it to the end of this little scree, it is currently 14 minutes, 45 seconds showing on the Zoom. That felt eternal to me. I hope it didn't for you. But we're going to be doing more of these. Not just me, but you can expect, and this is me going on record promising, you can expect by the middle of January, there's going to be new branding and a new logo and all that good stuff. And I'm going to just do more roundtable conversations. I'm moving away from the pretension of interviewing people like there's some theme to this. I've got friends near and far who do a much better job of it than I could do with my current set of variables. Not to say they won't go back that way in the future, but right now, what I find most interesting are meandering trains of thought where you don't know where they're going to go. And I'm very blessed to know some pretty cool people that I want to bring on the microphone to do more of these. So anyway, happy Tuesday night, everyone. I'm going to try to melatonin myself to slumber. Good night.
Be humble. Be grateful. 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 Be humble.